Slept on Cinema is sponsored by Training Ties, the ultimate shoe tying tool. If you know someone who's struggling with shoe tying for any reason, Training Ties is the perfect solution.
A terribly uninspired and silly erotic thriller.
As the screenplay unspools some ridiculous final act twists, it's highly unlikely you'll care about any of these seedy characters or their fate.
A laughable story that becomes goofier by the second.
This film should have spied on better scripts.
Gussied up smut.
Calling The Voyeurs a thriller is like calling a puddle an ocean. Shallow and murky, it leaves viewers drowning in disappointment.
There's a fine line between trashy and garbage. This movie is more of the latter.
The Voyeurs regurgitates musty ideas from much of its limp 122-minute runtime.
Never quite as titillating as it wants to be.
The substance of the movie is pure old-school late-night Cinemax, but the presentation remains refined and dull.
Welcome to this week's episode of Slept on Cinema. I'm your host, Stan Steamer.
And I'm Grove Street.
And this week we're getting into the 2021, which I think is our newest or freshest film. Maybe Birdie's was more recent. Tough to say. We'll call it our newest now. Newest film, the 2021 erotic thriller, The Voyeurs. I don't know. This may be our first erotic thriller, but I feel like maybe you could toss Femme Fatale.
It's
maybe gets a little bit, and maybe it also, what was it? Hollow Body. Is that what it was called? It had two names.
Oh, wait, High Voltage?
High Voltage. Wait, the Hollow Body was the alternative title, I think.
Yeah.
European release.
Yeah, and there's a knock, not an erotic thriller, but an erotic horror, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Anyhow, we're getting into the 2021 The Voyeurs. And this movie was a lot of fun. We've done more of a roller coaster series or experience as this was, and it was absolutely fantastic.
If you haven't heard of it, that's normal, because I hadn't heard of it, and most people haven't heard of this movie. But I think part of this is we're catching the star of Sydney Sweeney rising, and then seeing that some of her older movies qualify. Not even that old, but 2021, and
the director. I think we have two, a star and a star director, both on the rise here. That we're just lucky to be able to do this, because this was fantastic. And
they're doing they just did another movie together, right?
Exactly. Yeah, they just did Immaculate, which I haven't seen yet, but it sounds amazing.
Looks awesome. It looks like we won't be able.
There's no chance. I feel like the ship has sailed on both Sweeney and Mohan. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but the ship is sailed. I do not think we'll have another chance to do a film by either of them.
I agree. Mohan from?
Oh, where's he from?
Boston.
All right.
Yeah, Boston guy.
Sweet. This movie, like all other movies that we review on the podcast, is at or below 50% on Rotten Tomatoes for both critics and audiences. And the podcast is structured so the first half is spoiler-free, talk about some things to look for in the film, take a break, go watch the film, come back and talk about what we just watched. Should we get to the rotten premise?
Rotten premise. After moving into a beautiful loft apartment in downtown Montreal, a young couple find themselves becoming increasingly interested in the sex life of their eccentric neighbors across the street. What starts out as an innocent curiosity slowly turns into an unhealthy obsession. After they discover that one of the neighbors is cheating on the other, temptation and desire cause their lives to become tangled together in unexpected ways, leading to deadly consequences. Breathing new life into the forgotten genre of erotic thriller, The Voyeurs ask the question, is it okay to watch? Pretty highly rated for our podcast, at critics 44% and audience at 46%. So one of the highest rating movies we've done.
Yeah, and it's interesting that little synopsis refers to erotic thrillers as a forgotten genre, which is kind of mind-blowing, because I feel like that is accurate. It is very much a forgotten genre, but it's also like, how could it possibly be a forgotten genre? Like, the whole point is that it's attention grabbing, and it glues your eyes to the screen and just, makes you uncomfortable in ways that are exciting. How can that be forgotten? It blows my mind that that's where we're at now, but it's true.
It's a good point. And I remember like pretty much every one of my buddies' dads back in the day watching La Femme Nikita on USA. So it was prevalent everyone was watching it, and then it seems to just go away.
Yeah. It makes no sense to me. I'm hopeful we're at a turning point, but we can get to that.
I have a guess as to why, but my guess is if you're watching content, a lot of times back in the day, I feel the people who watched erotic thrillers were watching partly a percentage for the erotic part. And now I think if you're looking for that, you can kind of go elsewhere if you'd like to. So I don't think this little like Cinemax late at night thing is the draw it once was, but that doesn't that is one aspect of maybe why it's not as popular, but the genre itself is still incredible.
Yeah. I think there's probably also an element of, like, obviously it sort of peaked in the 80s, and some of the best erotic thrillers we have came from that era. And they're just some of my favorite films are erotic thrillers from the 80s. And I think there's probably an element also of sort of the more modern viewer is probably just a little bit not as into some of the sort of like male gaze-y elements of how a lot of those thrillers were structured. So I think some of the, like this film and some of the other newer ones do take a more modern approach, which is probably a little bit harder to nail.
Yeah.
Just because it's a little bit more nuanced. But anyhow, I think there's a lot of room there still to go. So looking forward to what comes next. So this film came out September 10th, 2021. No box office numbers here. It was just a Amazon Prime release. So can't tell you too much on the success of it, other than to say that apparently Amazon executives said that it exceeded all expectations. It was a quote from inside sources. So I think we have to assume that this thing crushed. And it was interesting. In 2019, the head of Amazon Studios had committed to a whole slate of what they were calling at the time of sexy date night movies. And they were going to produce a whole number of erotic thriller type movies, realizing that this was sort of a forgotten genre that had a lot of opportunity. And at the time, the director, Michael Mohan, had actually written a spec script. So he wrote this script just on his own without any plans of it getting published or not published, but produced. And it came around just at the right time that Amazon was looking to dive into this type of movie. So he was actively pitching this. Amazon was looking for this type of film. They got together, it got fast tracked. He, along with this script, was just in general talking up the genre. And he wrote a 93-page manifesto called the Erotic Thriller Movie Journal that was just talking up the genre as a whole and just extolling its virtues. So he was really the man of the moment, I think. And it just was the perfect timing that collided with what Amazon was looking for. So this got fast tracked, it got made. And for whatever reason, even though this was incredibly successful on Amazon, they ended up scrapping that idea of the sexy date night movies. So this was the only one that they ended up actually producing. So I think that there's still a lot of fertile ground here. And I don't know exactly why this isn't as much of a scene as it was before. I would have thought with streaming that these are perfect movies to watch at home, right? Yeah. Like this is the perfect kind of streaming film. And that sort of sexy date night, the sexy at-home date night movie now is the perfect time. So I'm hopeful that we are on the verge of these making a pretty significant comeback.
Get back to like, I'm just trying to didn't research into this, but just think of like Sleeping with the Enemy, Basic Instinct.
Basic Instinct is a top 5 film. It just is.
It just is. Just erotic thriller, whatever. Just it's a masterpiece of a movie.
Yeah.
Disclosure, like we did La Femme Nikita, but like Femme Fatale. That those type of movies just used to not be pumped out, but it used to just be such a draw.
Yeah, they were reliably successful entertainment.
Yeah, and it was adult entertainment that didn't mean that sort of adult. It's just like it's for adults. Like it's like you wake up late at night and you walk into you can't sleep. You walk into your the living room at too late at like 9:30 and your parents are watching this type of movie. It's like that sort of thing that parents used to watch. We don't really have that as much anymore being made now. You kind of have to go back to movies that were made then. But this movie, I watched it with my wife twice and it was just like, yeah, this is like adult thrillers. And it's just kind of just it is a really fun, it's type style of movie, genre movie, because I think so much what's popular now is like the CSI stuff and murder shows and documentaries and all that stuff. And there's a lot of crime and sort of just like scandalousness that happens in that. So it's kind of weird that stuff like that, it pulled my wife, and she didn't really like the movie, but she liked watching the movie. At the end, she was like, I don't like it. Because that's kind of like what she does. Mm-hmm. But in the middle of it, she was just glued to the screen. She was enjoying the entire time, like watching it. And it's that type of movie. You may not at the end be like, for some people, not their favorite movie, but you're going to be glued to the screen. And I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it's one of these films. I mean, this genre is not for everyone, as no genre is. But I think for people that are into this type of film, it goes for it in every way, which is how these types of films should be done. And I love it for that. It probably is the right time to say, this is not a movie probably to watch with your children or your parents. I'd say this is a keep it in generation.
Or your babysitter. Today,
yes.
Again, and we're watching it downstairs, taking notes, and my babysitter's there, and I'm like, this is weird. I don't feel comfortable with this movie on. So yeah, watch your surroundings while you watch it.
Yes.
Not my babysitter, our child. Should we get to Bolos?
Let's do it.
Bolo, be on the lookout for eyes.
Yes, unmistakable recurring motif here, eyes. And I'll follow that up with another unmistakable recurring motif, eggs. Bolo eggs.
Bolo eggs and eyes. Bolo big windows.
Absolutely. And then just skin. Bolo skin. Hard to miss. It's probably the most skin we've seen in any film we've done.
This is the most skin, so I'll just add on top. It's said, and it's there. Bolo boobs and butt. So
yes,
don't watch it with your kids.
Yes, I'm gonna go Bolo. Just really great transitions, like visual transitions in the film. Just, the camera work, everything about it was great, but the transitions are phenomenal.
De Palma-esque. Like this is a really well.
Yes, I'm sure most people who watch a lot of movies had that same reaction. I thought the structure of the film, the way it was shot, was clearly an homage to De Palma's style of movie making, and that's our type of film. So I think This is right up our alley.
Bolo, an amicable pre-move-in breakup.
Yes, the rarest kind. I will say Bolo, an early life crisis.
Bolo, the owners of the apartment. Hard to find.
Yes. Bolo, the Heimlich maneuver. I think this is our first Heimlich maneuver.
It is our first Heimlich.
Which also got me to thinking, like, do you think that Heimlich had any idea how famous his maneuver would really be? I don't know really any other maneuvers but Heimlich.
That's a good question. I wonder there's got to be other maneuvers named after. Sure. Yeah, I got nothing. That's
but
pretty
Heimlich,
cool. Maneuver.
Everyone knows the Heimlich maneuver.
Yeah, and except for someone.
No, except for one person, which you'll see.
So you got to see what people did before they learned about the Heimlich maneuver, and it's not very effective.
Thank God for Mr. Heimlich.
Bolo deserving hangovers.
Yes, and follow that with Bolo sake.
Do you like cold or warm sake?
I'm not a huge sake fan, and I've really tried to like it a number of times, and I still will have it from time to time just to check in. And when I do, I prefer cold.
Yeah, cold. I feel like cold is the best stuff. I had a sake connoisseur who took us out in like Manhattan one time years ago, and
that's what I need.
Yeah, it's just someone being like, try this, and good or bad, if someone says try this and they love it, I'm gonna love it, and it was great.
Yeah.
Bolo references to shows and movies.
Yeah, this is a great film for people who are into watching things all around. And I'll follow that Bolo binoculars. Speaking of watching things.
Yep.
Love a good pair of binoculars.
Speaking of binoculars, Bolo not buying an accordion.
Bolo science. Get some great science.
Awesome science. Unexpected awesome science. That's great. That's also, I guess, what's part of the homicide NCIS world too, is right. You get the murders and then you get the science, and we got some of this. Bolo, a satyr.
Nice. Bolo, the drinking bird, and just also birds more generally, but definitely the drinking bird. Love those things.
Love those things. Yep. Are you a big fan of like perpetual motion machines?
Who isn't?
Who isn't? Yeah, it's hard not to. Yeah, exactly. I always figured if I was smarter, I would get the metal balls that clang. But
yes, I don't think either of us are smart enough to like have that on our desk.
And you need the desk in the office. You can't just like willy-nilly put that on your desk at home.
No, maybe someday we'll get there, but I'm not anywhere close.
No close, yeah. Maybe some more books in our heads and we'll get there. Bolo, a butt slap.
Nice. Bolo, the word fro, and like not the hair reference, but just the word fro. I'm going to go on a limb. I haven't cataloged, but I think this might be our first fro movie.
I think it is too. Bolo, saying the wrong name.
Mm-hmm. So embarrassing.
So embarrassing. That's why you don't say people's names.
Right. Hey, bud.
Hey, buddy. What?
Bolo mirrors. There's a great use of mirrors in this film.
Great mirror movie. Bolo, symbolically erasing a chalkboard.
Mm-hmm. The symbolism throughout. It's just this film is dripping with symbolism.
Probably should have just said symbolism, yes.
I'd never heard of this one before, which may shock you, but Bolo chlorophyll water. It sounds very healthy and maybe gross.
Yeah, it sounds healthy, not dangerous. Bolo, connecting to someone else's printer. Usually annoying, but not in this.
Yes, usually annoying. Bolo some horns, just really great horns. Reminded me of Hellboy.
That was almost better horns in this, and those were amazing horns in Hellboy.
Yes.
Bolo, a funny, humorously long chase scene.
Yes, but also slow.
A long, slow chase scene.
We've talked about this in some other of our films about the modernness of them, and this is maybe our first, but Bolo Siri makes an appearance for the first time.
Yeah, we're getting more Siri in this and less mainframe. And,
yes, I didn't hear mainframe once.
Bolo, a stabbing motion.
Mm-hmm. This is pretty generic, but just Bolo obsession.
Oh, that was my next one. Bolo, nice socks.
Like that. This is my last one. Also a fairly obvious one, but the importance can't be overstated. Just Bolo photos.
Bolo photos. I'll finish with Bolo, someone having a great time eating ice cream using the ice cream scooper to eat out of, which I would never. That sounds.
I've never done that, and it doesn't. It's too curved.
Yeah, I don't think it's like it's not like I'm above it. It just doesn't seem like the right move to get it in your mouth.
Yeah, it's also like everyone has spoons.
Yeah.
Some people have ice cream scoops, but no one who has an ice cream scoop doesn't have a spoon.
They made it seem like it was one of these where like, screw the spoon. I'm just going to eat it out of the container, which is fine, but who would
use the
spoon to do that?
Yeah, just use the spoon.
Unless maybe you go for it thinking you're going to make a bowl and then you're like, screw it. Let me just take it down. But then I would still
use the spoon.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah. All right. Let's get to our last segment before the break. What drink to pair with this movie? I'm going to go first just because I think it's pretty simple for me, and this is pretty easy for us since we like to do this, but I would just pop open a really elegant bottle of wine.
I love it.
Enjoy a really, like that nice bottle, you're watching it by yourself or with your partner, like pop open that really nice bottle and just have a time enjoying that bottle, like really cherish that bottle. I just feel like it's a perfect high-end wine movie. And if you don't know wine, fake it. Just buy something. It's almost better to not even know about the wine in this movie.
Just buy something nice. Buy something that the guy at the store says you're going to love this.
And if you don't know anything about it, great. Who cares?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, enjoy it. I think that's a great pick. There's something about this genre of film that sort of feels like it's like a classic genre that I feel like pairing it with just a nice wine. it just makes sense, especially if you're watching it with your significant other, you're sharing it. It's a good movie to watch with us, like with one other person. It's that kind of sort of intimate film that I feel like cracking open a bottle of wine makes so much sense.
You're almost not just pairing the drink with the movie, you're pairing it with sex. So
yes,
whatever you would have before going upstairs, that's pretty much the drink you're going to have with this.
Yeah. That's a great pick. That's a great pick. And I thought about going that direction, but mine is another, and there is wine also drank obviously in the movie that makes some crucial points in the film, which is always fun to sort of feel like you're actually in the film as well. Mine is another drink that is featured prominently in the film. I'm going with the penicillin cocktail that they order at one point in this film. And I had never heard of this, and I was very intrigued because of the name. And then I looked it up, and I was like, this sounds right up my alley. It sounds amazing. It looks amazing on screen. It's scotch, and then you make a ginger honey syrup and lemon. And it's actually, you shake a blended scotch, the honey ginger syrup and lemon, strain that out into a glass, and then top it with some Islay scotch for the smokiness. So you have two types of scotch. It just sounds absolutely amazing. I like lemon. I like ginger. I like honey. I like scotch. This sounds great. It's a beautiful looking drink. They order it in the movie. I think that would just be, it's a classy seeming drink. It also feels somehow very Montreal. I'm not entirely sure why, but just sounds like a great drink. It's also, it's a new drink, which I was surprised by. It sort of sounds like an old school drink, but this was actually invented in 2005 by a bartender in New York. So it's a very hip drink. And I feel like this movie also has a sort of, despite being a kind of older genre, has a very, very hip feel to it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great choice. And it's perfect to some of those Montreal bars. It looks so nice.
They're so cool.
It's perfect drink to get there. My wife suggested a skinny martini, or just something that's like, if it's like the girls who are trying to be hot and but like 10 years beyond where they are, and they're trying to like blend into the nice crowd, whatever that drink is, maybe would be, because you're just kind of like pretending you're of this other level, and you might not quite be there yet. You're a couple years below tier.
Yeah, you're acting like it.
Yeah. But the penicillin is perfect. And man, does that look good in this drink.
It looks so good. I mean, it made me, we were talking about this before we got on. I in my mind, I was going to make one this evening for this podcast, and then it just didn't happen, of course. But some point, aspirationally, I'm going to make one of those.
Well, if you have the makings, or if you don't, go grab it. If you just have a nice bottle of wine at home, pop it open and enjoy this. We're going to take a break so you got a chance to go watch the movie, and we'll see you on the other side.
Yeah, enjoy.
So we're really going to do this?
Seems that way, yeah.
I get to live here. You can see right in.
Check out those two. What is he, like a photographer? Oh, they're in love.
I don't think we should spy on our neighbors.
Right. Oh, they're
Just because someone is allowing you to look in on their lives doesn't mean it's okay to watch.
How do we become their friends?
You want to become BFFs with the neighbors we now seem to be stalking.
I mean, we just never done that before.
I've been having dreams. I wanted it to happen.
This might be a little problematic.
I've been having dreams.
I just wish we could hear what they were saying.
I've been having dreams.
Don't you ever feel guilty?
I've been having dreams.
It's like when you're so obsessed with something, you forget to look around and go, what am I even doing?
Would it be strange if I asked to take your picture? Am I not enough for you? Pippo, what did you do?
Slept on Cinema is brought to you by Training Ties, the ultimate shoe tying tool. If you know anyone who's struggling with shoe tying, Training Ties is the perfect solution. Or if you know anyone who just doesn't like tying their shoes, Training Ties keeps shoes tied all day long. Say no to Velcro and yes to independence with Training Ties.
Welcome back. That was a ride. That was a roller coaster of a movie. They really went for it in every way. The first time, I think we touched on this a little bit in our last episode, that my experience the first time I watched this was kind of a extreme way to watch this film. You know, we both have small kids, and you know, we don't always have a 2-hour chunk to sit down in front of a TV and watch a movie. So I often watch movies over the course of several days. Sometimes it might even be at 10-minute increments. And this film, I watched it in 3 parts, and at both what we thought were suicides at the time, that was when I stopped watching. So I had this period where for like a whole day, I'd just seen what I thought was a suicide, and then I was like sitting with that, and then I was like going through another one. I was like, this is crazy. This is this like suicide movie all of a sudden. And then, you know, come to find out that neither of them in fact were suicides. But that was my experience with this movie was more extreme because of the first manner in which I watched it.
Those some crazy times to stop. We only got caught in one suicide stoppage. So my wife and I watched it first, and we stopped for whatever, you know, like we said, we don't usually have the 2-hour increments because one of our kids woke up. So we stopped it at Thomas's. No, not Tom. Is it Thomas? Thomas's suicide? Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep. At his suicide. We stopped it there, and you're right. I sat with that for a couple of days. I'm like, oh my goodness, committed suicide from that, and then. I mean, it's really cool times, I guess, to pause the movie and reflect and then come back to be like, oh, none of that actually was true. But when you sit with it for a while, it seemed like it might have been. Yeah,
it was an interesting way to experience the film because it did make it seem more extreme because of just sitting with that dramatic element of a film.
And you had texted during it that this movie got wild in the middle, and we weren't sure if we were going to do it or not. And then the wild became great wild, and that's why we're doing it.
Yeah. At first, I was like, "This movie's amazing. We have to do it." And then partway through, maybe after the second suicide, I was like, "I don't know if we can do this. This is like a very intense film. This might be, you know, not really. We might not be prepared for this."
Right,
exactly. Like, do we need to bring on some sort of help for this episode? But the way that it wrapped up at the end, I think, brought it right back home for us.
Oh, definitely. And without further ado, let's get to the draft. What do you got as your first pick from the movie?
My first pick, and I don't know the best way to describe this, but it's the way the film draws you in to experiencing it. That's my pick. So it's a combination of the POV shots, which we've seen in a couple other films, but looking through the binoculars, the some of the even the long tracking shots where you sort of feel like you're becoming a voyeur yourself. That opening scene with Pippa trying on lingerie in the store, we are sort of peeping on her as a viewer. The whole way that they tailored this film with the way they shot the scenes to make you feel. You feel that voyeuristic element. You felt that obsession that draws you in. I just thought it was. I mean, this is something I love in films where they make you feel what the characters are feeling, so that you're sort of drawn into the film. And I thought they executed that expertly. It was just really, really well done to give you that feeling of experiencing what the sort of the spiral of emotions that the main character was going through.
Yeah, the camera work experience was something like we haven't experienced probably since, like we said before, but like the Snake Eyes or De Palma film, like the directing work is very, very clearly another, you know, actor in the movie. It's some other thing. And I loved how they did the binocular shot, as well as Pippa would see herself, like there'd be some scenes you weren't quite sure why she'd be next to Seb or in the other apartment. And then you'd see that it was her putting herself there, but she was actually own apartment, and that's sort of like camera work leading was just so well done.
Yeah, it was amazing. It made me excited to know that we have so many more films to come from this director, because it was a work of art.
Yeah, and speaking of work of art, my first pick is going to be the art gallery reveal scene.
Oh, that's amazing.
When she goes and she's like, oh, opening night is tonight. And she hadn't talked to Seb after sleeping with him and the whole thing. Then come to find out that she was the focal point of this entire movie the entire time, and what she thought she was doing to somebody else was done even more so to her. And to have like that moment when they said Pippa, and she turned around and she's behind her, a picture of her like naked on the wall, and she just had that full realization.
Yeah.
And they walked through all the steps, like she thought she was watching us, but we were watching her. And it went through everything, including the death of her boyfriend, like up on the wall to feel. And it did such a good job of making like the viewer, her, just feel so small and so angry, and like you felt that.
Yeah, so exposed.
So exposed for who you are, and just raw, just out there. That whole scene was just like that scene was, that's where the movie like flipped into something else to me. It's like art gallery scene to be like what you thought this movie was about becomes something completely different, because in that same scene you reveal that Julia is alive, and she's right before that scene, because I had seen it once all the way through, and my wife stopped at the suicide part. I was like, who's your favorite character in this movie? She's like, well, obviously it's the girl who killed herself, Julia. Like, she did nothing wrong. I was like, wait a minute. And it turns out she's like one of the biggest masterminds of this movie.
Yes.
You find that out in that art gallery scene. So that art gallery scene just like blew me away.
It was amazing. It was such a great reveal, especially it was like much like they did with the whole film. It was a reveal to the viewer. It was a reveal in the characters experience the reveal. It was a show just, in the film, and for us, so well done. The element of the twist also made it an exceptionally entertaining second watch. Yeah, I think you pick up on so many different little things, especially the interactions between the two sets of apartments. And you can really see how they were being sort of set up along the way in ways that at least I didn't appreciate in the first instance.
Even going so far back to is when they got the apartment on the second watch. The real estate lady is kind of saying some hinting stuff that you just like look over when you're watching. Like, hey, the owners they don't rent to everyone. It's a good rate, and you can't hang stuff from the ceilings. He's like, curtains? Nothing. Like, you can't hang anything for a reason.
Right.
And watching it the first time, it doesn't even it's not very obvious. When you watch it the second time, it's like they're hitting you over the head with it, like something's wrong with this apartment. Even the French, I thought I forgot to put my subtitles on, and the French part came up what the real estate agent is saying in English to make you know like what she is saying. So even if you have
this is important.
This is important. What I'm saying, read this lease. You don't have it yet. Like, she's hinting at all these things, and it just goes over your head. But you're right. Seeing one of those, something about these movies with like that reveal makes you want to watch the movie over and over again to see like,
absolutely,
how quickly could I have picked up on this, that was going to happen? That art gallery scene is like the erotic thriller version of like I See Dead People. Like, you had no idea that was coming. Yeah,
it was phenomenal. I mean, it obviously like made the whole film.
Yep.
Like that was the linchpin of everything, and flipped it on its head and just made the experience that much better.
Well, that's definitely my first pick. My second pick is I'm glad you took how it was the filmed and the camera work and all that, because I easily could have taken that. I'm glad that was picked, but I think I'm just going to take the dumbing down of hot people. Typically, movies like the first beginning of the movie when it's like Sydney Sweeney, and they try to make her look like some regular girl who's just an ophthalmologist and doesn't quite have it all together, and she's just a nerdy little girl who's never had fun. You're like, this is Sydney Sweeney. Like,
come on,
SNL for being like the hottest girl in the world.
Right.
I just started thinking of other movies where they downplay hot people. We've got She's All That. That's a big one.
Classic.
Yep. We've got the unibrow mute from Always Sunny, the McPoyle sister. Her life is like a model. Just Needy from one of our prior movies from Jennifer's Body. Only they like dumb her down. Janie Briggs, of course, not another teen movie, is a classic example. And then we got Brittany Murphy and Clueless. Like, it's this thing where you have to like meet them like, this isn't a hot person, don't worry, but really it is like this one of the hottest people on the planet.
It's like, but she was wearing overalls and had a ponytail.
Yeah, glasses and overall and a ponytail. There was paint on the overall. Like, she had to be. It's just a funny setup. Like, why do they make Sydney Sweeney look like that in the beginning? And then you're like, oh, that's why. So she could look at the end. Yeah, that's a great pick. It's almost a trope, but done really well here, especially because it's
she's also, a doctor and like all this stuff. She's clearly very talented and educated and all of that.
I read valedictorian of her high school class, Sydney Sweeney.
No, interesting. So accurate.
Accurate, I guess.
Well, for my second pick,
you know what's unfair that I just did? It's unfortunate that really, 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 really beautiful people aren't thought to be the smartest people in the world right away.
I know we have that problem constantly. People are always doubting our intelligence. I'm sure it's because of our extreme beauty.
Infuriating. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I'm for my second pick, I'm not straying too far from the flock here for the last pick, and I can't believe I was able to get this as my second pick. I'm taking Sydney Sweeney. I mean, we're not watching this movie right now and talking about it right now if A, she's not in it, and B, she doesn't absolutely crush this role. I mean, this role, as much as it is about obsession and voyeurism and complicated relationships, it's about her. It's about her. She is experiencing clearly this crisis about what to do with her life. What is her life? She's stuck in this thing, this profession that she's worked so hard for, but yet once she has it, she's not sure that that's really what she wants. She has, she's moving in with her boyfriend, which you'd think would be a great, fantastic step for in a young person's life, but she's also clearly conflicted because they have some intimacy issues or emotional connection challenges, and I think her whole life is these conflicts, and she's torn up about it. And because of that, I think it's a fertile ground for this obsession to take root. And she just plays that role perfectly. Like, to just experience that downfall in a way that feels eerily relatable for something that's so outlandish, I think she just absolutely nailed.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes we get a hint, like some of these young actors and actresses, like we get a little, I'm a big sports guy, you are too, like NBA. You see like a little, it's like Anthony Edwards right now, just like showing us how amazing they are. Like, there's going to be a long career ahead of us for Sydney Sweeney, because this wasn't even just now when she's popular. This was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Before she was even big. And you're right. The whole reason we watch this is because she's a name now. We give it a chance. And it's not like I made fun of her a little bit for just being like a hot person, but it's like almost like Margot Robbie, right? Like, they're really hot, but they also are incredibly good actors and actresses, and like they can carry these.
Talented.
This movie could not be what it was without her. It's fun taking a movie and be like, what if we just change this person? And I don't think this movie could have been anything really without her. She carries this movie. It's funny that we had her as a second pick in our draft when clearly she's the number one pick of this movie.
Yeah.
But, we have to be us. But it's really her who carries this whole film.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I'm blown away by the performance here. I think it's no surprise after seeing something like this that she's just gone on to become a really one of our stars.
Yeah.
And I think, looking forward to everything that we can get from her.
Crushed SNL too. I always think that's cool when like an actor can like actually be good on a live thing too. You're like, oh, you're not just like a bot. You're a real talented person.
There's a lot of range. My third pick.
Yep.
Maybe this is a sleeper, but the degree to which I believe in this makes it a third round pick to me, is just having that ride or die friend. And Pippa's friend here, when she obviously went through a lot. She thinks she's responsible for 2 suicides. She thinks she's a terrible person, and she confides all this to her friend, and her friend is just like it's the best reaction you could possibly have from a friend. It was such a convincing, this is not your fault, and in a really effective way. And her friend at no point was judging her, at no point was thinking you've done something wrong. Her friend was just there. I'm here for you. You are a great person. This is not a reflection on you. This happened to you. You are a victim here. And just having that ride or die friend, there's nothing better than that.
That's a great pick. True or not, what the friend was saying, it almost doesn't matter because she's your friend. It's nice to have someone like that in your corner. The whole world is going to be impartial to you. It's nice to have some people who have your back to be like, yeah, I knew you before this thing happened. You're not this incident. You are more of a person than just this one scenario that you were kind of roped into to begin with. I that was kind of lost on me. You're right. That was a really cool moment to have that. And it easily could have been like some non-close, vapid relationship. But that friend was like a ride or die friend, just like, no.
Yeah.
And then Sydney came to her like, hey, I understand if you never want to talk to me again. She was feeling so bad about herself. And the friend's like, no, what are you talking about? Like, this happened to you. You didn't do this. I don't believe her, but it's nice to have her friend say that.
It doesn't matter. It's just exactly as you said, that the whole world is in some way against you. But when you have those core friends that no matter what have your back, that is the most valuable thing in the world.
That's the best part of a friend. It's like you're none of us, but like if you're in a problem at a bar or whatever, and you get into it, it doesn't matter. Your friend isn't going to be like, wait, did my friend do something wrong? It's like, that doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
I have his back, whatever's going on right now, and it is what it is. We'll work it out later. And I just love how she's like, no, man, I got your back.
Yeah.
You don't have to feel bad. I got you. Yeah, you're right. There was no judgment either, which was very, very
none.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a great pick. That was your third pick?
Yep.
My third pick, I got to pick it because I love it, even though I hate the main sports team, Montreal. I love Montreal. Not a coincidence that my wife is from Montreal. She moved to the U.S.
You like the city so much, you married it.
I married it. And as an 18-year-old growing up in Boston, there's no more fun place to visit than
the Montreal trip is fantastic as a 18 to 21-year-old.
Taking that 5-hour ride, you get your own hotel room. You feel like you feel like an adult. You had a year or two in college, maybe, so like you feel like you're really an adult. And Montreal is just even when you get beyond the like 18 to 21-year-old bracket that we were all spending time there. By the way, I went to you're a baseball fan. I went there to an Expos game back in the old Olympic Stadium.
Oh, nice.
It was like, I think it was a $2 Canadian ticket. And the main point was to go see Vlad Guerrero bat without batting gloves there.
Oh yeah, and hopefully hose someone out at home from right field.
Yeah, I think he did all of the things too. And there was like 8 other people at the game that day back in the old Olympic Stadium. But Montreal is just an awesome place. And that bar, it's a weird like mini Paris too. It's a huge model community and like just like high end stuff there. So that bar into is just like a random Montreal bar. One of my favorite bars I've been to, my wife and I go there every time, is this like little speakeasy off of St. Catherine Street. I forget, one of those like main streets. And it looks like a radiator, nothing going on there. But the other side is like 10 seats inside this bar that has drinks like the penicillin and everything else. And it's all like, do not go in there and order vodka soda. You have to go in there and order hot drink. And it's just like the best city, amazing food, shitty weather, but just like Boston.
Yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, I agree. Montreal is great. It's a great neighborhood city too. I feel like it has so many different pockets that have very different vibes to them, and it's a great place to walk around and just duck into a bar, get a feel for the neighborhood, walk on another 20 minutes, and you're in a totally different place. Sad fact, that bar has since gone out of business, which blows my mind. I don't know if it was a victim of COVID, but that bar where they shot this portions of this film at is no longer a business.
That's unfortunate. Looks like a great bar. Looks amazing. If you live somewhere and you happen to have that, it's always like a divey bar or a crappy bar they had near you. If you live somewhere, have that down below.
Yeah, that was on my list of picks, was having that bar near your apartment.
If it required it like he did, like it seemed like the only time you could ever go to that bar is when you had a fight with your significant other. Like, oh, not again, honey, and just slam a glass. I'm going to the bar. Like, you don't have to
you start manufacturing fights just to go to the bar. Yeah.
I need 2 penicillins downstairs. So Montreal is my third pick, and my sleeper, even though I would hang up curtains, I think just the windows in this movie are incredible.
Amazing.
Oh my God. It's just the coolest windows. If you were the person to look at other people's windows, you could just turn off your lights and have a time in her apartment. Because it seems
like you ever lived in a place like that where you couldn't have curtains on your windows?
No, I've never had enough money to have big windows.
I once, for a year and a half, it stretched over for a year and a half. We lived in it was a converted warehouse. So sort of like a long, skinny apartment that had one giant window, and it was just too big to put curtains on. So we had no curtains. We were a little bit we were on the first floor, but we were a little bit elevated off the street, so people wouldn't be like walking by and seeing you. They'd be looking in and seeing the roof. But we did have some of that experience of just no windows. But across from us was like, it was like an industrial building, or like there were no windows looking into our windows. So a very different experience there, but a little bit relatable.
What do you got for your sleeper?
My sleeper, and this is a deep sleeper once again, but I just love when people use gum for something else. So here, Pippa uses gum to attach. Yes, exactly. Pippa uses gum to attach the mirror to something in the apartment, which seemed a little strange to me because they thought through a very elaborate plan involving lasers and microphones, and they didn't bring like some double-sided tape with them. But nevertheless, fortunately, they had some gum and it worked out perfectly. But I love the ability to use something like gum and have it save the day.
It's rare. Like that gum is something that's sort of left behind as some sort of magical element that could solve problems. Because in the 90s and early 2000s and 80s, like MacGyver or whatever, gum is a great adhesive that you can use in a pinch. Now it's everything's so technological. Like gum doesn't matter anymore.
It's true. It felt very throwbacky. Like people don't. I don't know the last time I saw a new movie where gum played a crucial role. Because now it's again, I have this polymer, this whatever, and it's like, no, I just got some gum.
It just makes you feel like you're watching like Little Giants or the Goonies or something, and they have like a team to use gum to make something stick to something. It's a good feeling that rarely happens now. Kind of gross, but whatever.
So,
yeah. Okay. I have an anti-pick.
Oh, let's hear it.
I don't like setup questions. So in that bar we were just talking about, when Seb sits down with her when she thinks he doesn't know him and he just randomly sits down, he's like, do you think it's wrong when people watch porn? And you're like, I know, like my answer here is just so you can be, I'm going to say something and you have a retort ready. Yes. I'm at a bar recently and some random guy was like, he knew I was a teacher and we started talking. I didn't want to really be talking, but he had a few drinks and he wanted to chat. And then he's like, who founded America? And I'm like, oh God.
Yeah.
I'm like,
don't make me be a prop for whatever monologue you're about to go
exactly. On. I'm like, I don't know. What do you want me to say? Pilgrims, Viking. He's like, what, you're a teacher? Who discovered the country was Vikings. He wanted this whole thing. I'm like, can you not just set me up with the thing? Like, don't make me say, like, it's usually like a question to you say the thing that everyone else agrees on, that Pilgrims discovered this. And then you go, what actually happened was this. And I don't want to, like you said, I don't want to be used as a prop. Don't have this elaborate setup to this stuff. Just say, is it wrong for me to bang other people? It's like porn, right?
Yeah.
Like,
if you're going to go on this monologue, just own it. Do it. Don't pretend like we're having a conversation here.
And give me these little okays along the way. You think it's okay to watch porn, right? So that's okay. It's like this fake Socratic method of solving a problem. It's really just being like, so I was right, see? Because you said yes along the way. I hate when somebody gives me that like proposition so that I could be wrong intentionally and they can just tell me the truth. Stop.
Yep. Yeah. That's the time you instantly need what I always need of the way to get out of the conversation. You need to be like, oh, well, actually tell me about your divorce.
Yeah, right. Let's go. Let me find the area you want to stay away from and let's drill that.
Yeah.
I would just take a fake phone call and get up and leave. Is what I would
do. See, I'd probably just be stuck there for forever and be just hating myself.
Yeah. Let's go to, I liked your superlative pick for this one. Superlative for this episode is favorite peeping.
Yeah, there were, the whole film's obviously, it's called The Voyeurs. It's about peeping. And there were so many good ones to choose from. And I kind of have two. My first one, it gets into one of these picks that is very of type of thing that I usually pick. And I think mine, and I don't even know if this counts, but was the opening scene where we're peeping on Pippa through the window of the lingerie shop. And as I say all the time, I love these movies that get you into the vibe and feeling of the film right off the bat. And it's I talked about this before, where this very much is a film that makes you experience what the characters in the movie are experiencing. And just to start off with this, like, as you said, like one of the most beautiful women in the world. And she's in this lingerie shop, and you have this little sliver. And of course, you're like, oh, like, what are we going to see here? What's going on? And then she's like, looks right back at the camera and is like, no, I see you. Like, this is what's going on here. It was a great way to start. And then I think they sort of toyed with the viewer in some ways for a while, where you don't see sort of what you thought. You're like, okay, I'm about to see some skin right off the bat. This is a voyeur movie. And then you see lots of skin for a while, but you don't get that Sydney Sweeney reveal. And I think they intentionally draw that out until you see her at her absolutely most vulnerable, which is, I think, done to great effect. But they sort of string you, the viewer, along to feel that sort of, like, I don't know, obsession, desire, whatever it is. But they use that. And I think it was all triggered by that first opening scene, which is like kind of a crazy thing to pick for favorite peep, because there were so many more obvious ones. But I loved how they set that up.
I love that pick too, because I feel like, and you're just right, like, I see why sometimes you don't want to have it written out, like what this movie's about when you start. When there's the text on the screen, you have to read it. That little shot alone, where we think we're looking at her sneakily through the little crack in the door, she's trying on her lingerie, but in reality, she knows we're watching her, is the perfect way to start this movie, because that's exactly what this movie's about.
Yeah.
You're seeing me. I want you to see me. I'm pretending like I don't know that you're watching me. I know you're watching me. I'm a level above where you are.
Yeah.
Great way to start the movie. My superlative for favorite peeping is, I don't have any of the ones that would probably pick. I think mine is the reveal. I mean, I picked it already, but the reveal that Seb and Julia were the ones peeping the whole time. I think the final peep was the reveal.
Flip.
The peep flip. Right. You thought you were peeping on us the whole time, but really, at the gallery, we have all these pictures of you at your most vulnerable, or like seeing the progression or regression of your relationship. We watched it the entire time, and here's the stills of all those moments that we saw. So I'm picking it again, but I just think that the reveal of that they were not the ones really peeping; they were the ones being watched.
Yeah, they were the peepees.
Peepees, yes. I also like the first one too. The first one that's innocent when they're in the apartment, and it's like what Thomas who wants to see, and she's like, "No, we're wrong." Like that little fun one, because everyone would be in the same scenario. Like that's the way, right? But it's funny that the one that doesn't want to is the one who's like, "I don't want to because this might become a problem for me." He's like, "This is just a fun thing, right?"
Yeah, like how could we not look at this? This is crazy. Exactly.
And she's like trying to push off a temptation.
Mm-hmm.
And I only had one for this one, but our bumper sticker segment. What quote from this movie is the perfect bumper sticker?
Yeah, I only had one also, and I feel like it's pretty obscure. This was not a big bumper sticker movie, I think, as you seem to agree. Mine is just the line, "This can't actually work." And it was a line from Thomas when he's watching, he's early on, he's watching and he's seeing this seduction unfolding across the way in a way that just seems preposterous. But then, of course, it does work. And I think that's kind of what's great about that expression. This can't actually work. You kind of only say that in a scenario where it is about to work.
Yep.
And that's just kind of great. Like everything about it.
I picture that this can't actually work when the person's in like the middle lane, but have their blinker to take a left, but they're like 2 lanes away. I have a similar thing about someone kind of being unsure. I don't know what I'm doing from Pippa. And I feel like the bumper sticker, if someone had that on the back of their car and maybe like a little, I don't know what I'm doing with a little driving wheel, I'd be like, okay, I'm okay.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I get that you're right. You don't know. I'm glad you admit that. I won't get mad at you. I'll go around you. It was a cool part of the movie too, where you knew she knew exactly what she was doing. When she was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just am watching what I've watched everyone do for the past however many months, be in that situation. But it would be nice for someone on the road to admit, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's such the bumper sticker that you will never see. It's like that's like the opposite of every bumper sticker you see, where someone professes something with such certainty at all times when it's usually completely unfounded.
One change would be a Blockbuster. What do you got?
So mine, and I think that this is something I don't know who makes this, but people are starting to catch on to a little bit. But I think this just needed a better poster. And I guess I don't mean poster, but I mean this was only released on streaming. And when you actually look at the poster itself, it's actually really fascinating. Like, and I think if this was a movie poster so that it was up on a marquee and you're walking down the street, it's really a fascinating poster. There's a lot going on. But when it's scaled down on your TV and you're scrolling through different options to stream, the details are completely lost. And it's just very much not it's not a poster at that scale that draws you in. And I think on the streaming thing, I think that's like kind of crucial for a movie that, at least at the time, didn't have A+ stars in it, or didn't get a lot of the budget for marketing it. You kind of need that thumbnail that draws you in. And I think just that little change of tweaking the poster to make it more, I don't know, I don't exactly know what it would be, but just drawing you in a little bit more. There's obviously a lot to do because this movie that's kind of the whole thing about this film, is drawing you in, like being a little titillating. And I think there are ways they could have done that in the poster or the thumbnail. I don't know what it's called when it's just on TV. But I think that change alone would have done the trick.
As you were talking, I went back and looked at it, and I totally agree. It does not pull you in, and you're right. Looking at it closer, there's some awesome details, but when you're flipping through,
you don't see those.
Prime, no one's going to the details of the movie they don't understand. You have to start loud and draw you in, and yeah, it's not the greatest poster to draw people in. And if you're flipping through, you're barely even going to know that's Sydney Sweeney, and like, yeah, I agree. Yep. They could a lot better.
Like the number of, I mean, I'm a perfect example. This is the type of movie that I should watch immediately when it comes out.
Yep.
And yet I scrolled past this probably 100 times before watching it.
I never even saw it. So that's totally true. My one change to be a Blockbuster would, it's obviously a long movie. It's 2 hours, which is tough for most movies. Erotic thrillers, even more so, I think. You know, and it's not one of these like big action pack 3 hour, whatever. It's a little bit tougher. So this should solve the length issue, as well as maybe get rid of some of the stuff at the end. I'm going to say, for it to be a Blockbuster, I'm not saying I agree with it, but maybe you end right at the art gallery scene. So, which means you never look at that, like Thomas wasn't poisoned. He killed himself, and everything you thought happened, that moment you felt when everything was revealed, and she was at the center of being watched. And it wasn't really her movie to be like, get the revenge and everything else after, where all the craziness happened at the end. If it just ended right there, I feel like that tale could have been told in a way that made it a much more popular movie. But I think a lot of people, and most of the reviews are like, this movie went nuts, basically right at that point after. So if it just ended right there, you would have cut off 25 minutes, would have been an hour and a half. Crazy twist ending that you didn't really get to process during the next half hour of the movie. Would have just ended right.
Yeah, I think you could do that. I feel like you'd want to leave a little bit more of a breadcrumb on the fake Thomas suicide, which would be easy to do. I mean, you had a little bit of when he tasted the drink and was like, "Oh, this isn't right." Important.
Well, I'm not even sure I want him to kill himself. I mean, want him to be drugged.
Well, I like the idea of it being like asking the question. You know, like you're like, "Oh, was there something there?" And you just don't know, but you leave a little bit more doubt.
I like the little doubt there to just sort of give us a little finals ending. Well, maybe they didn't die. I don't know.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and it's just 2 hours is tough.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I did love the burning of the eyes. I thought that was amazing.
They were doing the egg thing the whole time leading up to it. You weren't sure why it was even happening. Oh,
right, that was part of it. Again, on the second watch, knowing that that's where we're headed, made all those egg scenes all the much better.
I'm not sure. I like the twist endings, but I just wonder what this movie would have done if it was an hour and a half and it just ended right there.
Yep, I think that's right.
Last segment, spin-off ideas. What do you got? You got any?
So mine's I feel like it's a little unoriginal, but I given how twisted the couple across the way are, I want the prequel. I want to see what led them to this, because they are twisted and sadistic in ways that doesn't just happen, right? Like they're not just like the product of their environment and society. Like something, the path that led them to this set of decisions must have been wild. And obviously they're interesting people, they're interesting characters. It's not that creative, but I would just love to see what happened to get them to this point, which is absolutely insane.
That prequel would be so fun. And
It'd be so fun.
that's so much the answer. I think you and I just like movies so much. We're like, we like this movie. What do we want? Oh, let's find out what happens.
Yeah, more of it.
More of it. Just more of this movie. Yes. My spinoff. Take a quick sip here. I guess this falls into a bit of my shtick, but I don't like at all how Pippa kind of got away scot-free. I know you could be like, oh, Thomas died, so maybe she wasn't. But was she really that to begin with? She was at fault like this entire movie, and by the end, they made her seem like some sort of hero. And that part like did not work with me because it was awful. Like the entire movie, except then she was like, wait, I thought I was the awful one. You were actually being awful to me. I'm mad at you. And she was so awful where even after she died, she's like, she died after she thought Julia died. She was like, I'm still kind of thinking about Seb. Is that wrong? I want to see. She's still not like good in any way, but somehow she has this leg to stand on where she's really mad at them. So there's a movie called it's supposed to be a trilogy of horror movies called The Collectors, and it just kind of ends with like one capturing the other, and then it kind of flips to the other side for the next one. But this, I have, let me just go into this. The spinoff idea I have is part 2, The Voyeurs, Blind Justice. So what I have here is what I've written down here. Pippa wakes up blindfolded in an abandoned loft. She's had all of the internet watching as she's on some. Oh, wait, let me start this again here. So, let me just not do what I wrote down. I'm going to go paraphrase. So, she, about a year later, she wakes up in an abandoned place and her eyes are blindfolded. And basically, what we have ourselves here is a Saw movie. Seb and Julia have a ton of money, which they made very clear. They made a ton of money off of that art thing. They have lots of art things. They have way more resources than she does. So a year later, she wakes up in an abandoned place and she has a blindfold over her eyes. And basically, she has to do a lot of ways to get out of rooms that just rely on her listening and her auditory skills to get out because they're blinded and they want her to feel like they feel and to navigate life that they've had to navigate. They're artists. She took away the most important. She's a model. She took away the most important part of them, and they want to make her feel the pain that she's feeling. So she has this funhouse to get out of. She gets all cut up, ends up killing them.
Yep, of course.
Out of the funhouse, takes off the blindfold to reveal that she's been actually blinded the whole time. So while she gets out of it, she still has the curse that she gave to them, and now she has to go through life listening, which is something she did not do with her ex Thomas when he was trying to tell her, hey, can you stop doing this? She didn't listen. She kept watching. So she gets her eyesight robbed, just like she did the other ones. Finally, things are even in my mind, and we can continue on. I just hated the fact that she walked away as some sort of hero in this story. So I need a little comeuppance for her.
Yep. All right. I like it. I like it a lot. I think that has a lot of legs. I feel like that just like makes so much sense. That should be a thing.
Erotic thriller and make it a horror movie. And this is the prequel to get to the horror funhouse.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's all sorts of movies where I feel like that has become sort of a thing of doing a trilogy or different series of films that each film in the series is in a totally different style.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Erotic thriller. Great. Now, like, Saw style horror, great. And then who knows what the third one's going to be? So something crazy,
right? Everyone compared this to this as a Hitchcockian type erotic thriller horror. So if it's Hitchcockian, then maybe it's a little Saw-esque, and then something else. So let's just keep it in the world. This thriller horror.
I like that.
She gets away so clean. She didn't even like Thomas.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think, but I mean, she's still, I guess she's saddled with being the butt of this a really elaborate thing. You know, even when she's moving out, she's like, "Yes, those are my boobs. Yes, this is the apartment." Like that's her entire life.
True. But I mean, so what? That's how Kim Kardashian started everything, right? Everyone saw her naked, and all of a sudden she's the most famous person.
That's true. You maybe parlay that into a very successful career.
Any extra notes we didn't get to?
Let's see.
I have The Apartment. It's a very funny. It's like Friends, right? Like nobody I've ever known in their 20s. Other people we know.
Yeah, I mean, the only part that made it believable is like she is a doctor. I don't know how much people in that profession make, but she is a doctor. Like it looked like a job that maybe could pay the bills for something like that. I don't know.
And he wrote Viagra jingles, so that probably has some money.
It's a great little nugget right there.
The music is so good for the.
I was just about to touch on that. The music was amazing. I mentioned this before. How I have what started out as a 24-hour playlist that I've been working on. That is sort of I realize is very much of the same vibe of the music in this film. And we had of the soundtrack. There were 5 songs in the soundtrack that are also in my playlist. So I very much was like, wow, this. I'm really feeling this. I've actually been listening to the soundtrack all week. It's fantastic, but it's great. It feels very much of this time. It also feels very Montreal in a way that I don't totally understand why, but is that sort of like hip, a little bit old, but also new. I don't know. I
think that's Montreal.
Yeah, right. The music was fantastic. It was like perfectly curated soundtrack, I thought.
What would you do? Would you, if you were watching and you going back to when he was choking part and they were watching, debating whether they should call 911 or not, what do you do?
I mean, I don't see what you can do, right? Like you run over there. How are you getting in the building, right? Like they're not going to buzz you in. Like there's no way to get in. I'm not really sure. You probably call 911 so that there's a like ambulance at the ready to like resuscitate this person.
Yep.
That's probably your best bet. You say, I see someone choking, send an ambulance so that when if things don't go to plan, there's someone there to try to bring them back. But I don't see how running over, I mean, even just getting down, by the time you get over there, even if you buzzed all the buttons and figured out a way to get in, like you're like counting up, like, all right, what floor is that? And like, that's probably apartment number what?
I always make this analogy, like a Home Alone analogy. This Kevin McAllister's mom, who does all the things, does all the worry and running around and yells at everyone and cause a whole fuss. And she gets there at the same time as the dad who took the same flight.
He just waited for the next flight. Yeah.
Just wait for the next flight. Stop walking around and sharing your problems with everybody else and causing a whole. You going down there, running down, causing a whole commotion. That's not going to solve anything. But nothing. I'm not sure I would even I think you can call 911 to get him over there. But I probably wouldn't have been watching to begin with because I don't like to do that. But if I was, I think you can call and not get in trouble. You can be like, hey, I have a massive window. I'm watching somebody else through that massive window. They're choking.
Totally. Yeah. No one would be like, wait a minute, you were looking at them through your window?
Yeah. Wow, it is Montreal. These loft windows are huge. We get it.
Yeah.
My wife found Thomas very patronizing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they clearly had, I mean, maybe we don't know what their real background is, but it seemed like maybe they rushed into this a bit because it did seem like they were not a great pair.
No, this feels like they're both like 24 and like, this is us, right? We've been dating for 2 years. We're going to get a place, but they really don't even like each other.
Yeah.
And that's all I got. That was, I'm glad you suggested this movie. It's fun doing a newer movie because we're in the 90s, which is great, but it's just fun doing a relevant movie.
Yeah, and I can't wait. I need to watch Immaculate like as soon as possible. Yeah. I mean, after seeing this and knowing that we have another film with the same director, same actress, I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, I totally agree. She's climbing in the actress territory, almost into the whatever she's making now. Like, let's just watch it for my wife and I.
Yeah, 100%.
What's our next movie?
I feel like we're dipping back into our core comfort zone. We are doing The Day After Tomorrow.
I cannot wait for this movie. I loved it It's got Jake Gyllenhaal, Dennis Quaid, Emma Rossum. She's the girl from Shameless.
Emmy Rossum?
Emmy Rossum. And it's just an awesome, fun,
great disaster movie. I mean, it's a whole genre that we've hit on a handful of times. It's always a ton of fun. This one, great effects, great visuals, great cast.
If you had a TV from 2005 until with cable until now, you've probably seen this movie come up on FX or Fox or whatever.
At least 1,000 times.
Always on TV.
Yes. And it's always one of those things that you're like, oh, yeah, I could watch 10 minutes of this. Why not?
Or does this? Sure. Oh, they're trying to go onto the boat in the harbor. Sure, let's go in there.
Yeah. I can't wait to watch this. It's a movie's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. This was a ton of fun, and can't wait till next time.
Yeah, later.
Later.